Let's set up the JSX for our signup component. So head back to signup.jsx, and we'll take advantage of some Bootstrap class names to speed up the design process of our application. First, let's change this overall div and call it form inline for the class name. Form inline. Then we'll have a simple header2 component with the title of sign up. Now we'll need a form group. And this is going to be our actual form where the user signs up and enters all of their information. So we'll have one input whose class name will be form control. The type will be text. And then the placeholder will be email. Now we need another input. This class name will also be form control. This type will be password, which will be useful for disguising character keys as bullets to protect the user's information. So let's have another placeholder and say password. Now we'll have a simple button. And this button will say sign up. And the class name for this button will be Bootstrap button, which is simply btn. And then we're going to have a button primary. It's going to have a nice blue color because of that. Its type will also be button. And let's save and check out how that looks. Cool, so that's really big because I'm zoomed in right now. But at 100%, it looks just like this. Great. And I just have a saved password for localhost already, which is why mine is showing up, but yours should be blank just like this. So now we need to set up some state for our React class. We'll have a constructor with props. Our first line will be super props. And then, as many of you will recall, this.state is an object. And then we'll have an email with a blank string and a password with a blank string. Now we'll have two onChange functions for our inputs. So onChange equals an anonymous arrow function with our event variable. And we'll set the state of email first. To the event.target.value. And then, of course, our password will also be event.target.value. And finally, let's make a signup helper method, which for now simply console.logs the state. So this dot state, and then this dot state. Then we'll attach this helper method to the click of our button. Let's save, inspect the element. And then I accidentally typed this wrong, so onChange should just be onChange, not onChange. And then let's add some new information here. How about harry@potter.com, and then Harry, sign up. Cool, we see our state object. We have an email of harry@potter.com, and our password is just Harry. Great. So now let's add the actual logic that handles creating the user with this email and password from Firebase. So at the very top, we'll need to import our Firebase app from Firebase, and make sure you go back one directory by doing the .. Head to your signup function, and once again, we want to look at the auth domain. And let's create a user with email and password. And it has two arguments, email and password. So let's argue email and password. And before we move on, let's declare that email and password and use our ES6 shorthand syntax upon this.state. And then within here, this should be enough to create a user. However, we want to catch any error that might happen during that process. And for now, let's simply console.log those errors. Let's make sure we spell it correctly. Save. All right, now this is exciting. This should almost be enough to sign up, but there's one more step we need to add. You need to head back to Firebase console right now. Go ahead and resize this. Head to your authentication page. And then before it works, we need to go to our sign-in method and enable email and password sign-in. Let's enable that, save. Now we should be able to sign up a new user. So I'm going to make this smaller again. So let's try harry@potter.com and Harry Potter. Great. So now we have a user has signed up listener. Remember that listener we had in index.js? That's the one that's actually logging. And we see that on our auth state change, we actually got a user. And we have an email. We have whether their email is verified, which is false, the display name, which is nothing for now, and a lot of Firebase data. Cool. So now what if we actually don't have a good user signing up? What if their information has an error? Well, we need to be able to handle that and show that to the user in case they badly format their email or their password is insufficient, for example. So let's create an error object in our state with a message of a blank string. And then if we get an error, let's just simply set the state of error to that error. Cool. And then at the very bottom, I'm going to have a div which simply has the state of error.message. I'll save. There we go. Now let's say, for example, that we sign up with an incomplete email. So how about Harry Potter? Then it says the email address is badly formatted. What if we have a valid email, but our password is just 2 characters? Password should be at least 6 characters. And what if we have the same user trying to sign up twice? Great, the email address is already in use by another account. So it looks like everything's working. Let's just add a little styling so that way not everything's touching each other. So we can simply give this a style of margin 5%. And that's looking better. And for both of our inputs, let's give it a style of margin right of 5% as well. Margin right 5 pixels. So as we resize this, it'll start looking really nice. Awesome. Now that we have everything logging correctly for our signup component, let's move on to also creating the sign in component.